Welcome back to Tib Reviews: A Dance with Dragons. We're back with Chapter 8, which is Jon again. Awesome! Like I said, this is the one storyline that I was really looking forward to. So, I get very excited when I get to the Jon chapters. So it's awesome. All right, so so this is coming after the whole thing with Tyrion, where I said the chapters are getting kind of like smaller and smaller. This is maybe the longest chapter I've read so far, apart from the prologue, I think. I'll have to go back and do a page count, but this one went on. But it wasn't without substance, so I'm not complaining. In fact, the more I can hear about what's going on at the wall, the better. So, basically it starts off with Jon's hovering over another document. He's not having the good luck with documents. But and he calls for Gilly, and he calls for Sam. Basically, this is the point in the story where, at least at the wall, we have now caught up with A Feast for Crows, or we are going to, and we go a little bit beyond it. So this is where Sam's first chapter in A Feast for Crows, where they actually reuse a lot of the conversation that he has. But I'll get to that in a second. So first thing he does, he brings in Gilly, and basically, we get to hear what happened. We knew what happened, but we hear, the actual conversation that takes place. And so, without much ado, he basically says, that you basically, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to go, and you have to take Mance's kid with you. We'll watch over your boy until he's of an age where he can go seek you. As long as we know where you are, if he reaches that age and he wants to go find you, go for it. In the meantime, we'll take good care of him, we'll feed him, we'll clothe him, we'll teach him how to be, how to fight, and what we can. He's in good hands, but you got to take this kid. And without saying, in fewer words, he basically says, you don't really have a choice about this, so I apologize. And he is really sorry about this, although he didn't really convey that all that well, because he doesn't want to. He's starting to build up. In the first couple of books, Catelyn talks a lot about, the difference between Robb the Boy and Robb the King. Well, now we're seeing Jon the Lord, and he's sort of learning his role in that. And and it goes to, and you can hear it too in his thoughts. He's talking about kill the boy, kill the boy, kill the boy. And we'll get to that in a second as well. But he keeps talking about how he's going to kill the boy, and so it's very disconcerting at first, because we don't really know exactly what he's talking about, and we really hope he doesn't kill the boy, but nevertheless, he sends Gilly on. Gilly's, pissed, and rightly so. She has that right. I think anybody here would be pissed. But then he brings in Sam, and then this is where we repeat just about everything from A Feast for Crows, that conversation that he has, where, the rat bit me, and it bled, no, it's so terrible, and so forth, and, and then even George kind of got sick of that, Mr. Martin, got sick of that scene, because he kind of just goes, and they talked on a little bit about these other things. And then he gets back to, they talk about the paper. So the document that he's hovering over in the beginning is this paper shield he keeps talking about, which, again, we learned about in A Feast for Crows, where he's talking about how he wants to send to King's Landing for more people to join the Night's Watch. So we all know, well, that didn't really get resolved either so much by the end of that, because Cersei had said, okay, I'm going to send my people up there, and well, things didn't end all that well for her, so we don't really know exactly what happened, but it doesn't matter, because we haven't gotten that far anyways. So he basically says, I feel bad about this because I hate this woman with the fiery passion of 1,000 suns, but at the same time we need people, and since technically I cannot afford to pick sides, I'm not allowed to pick sides, but more importantly, even if I could, I wouldn't be, I can't afford to do it, I gotta send it to him. And Sam tells him as much, and they agree, and so he sends off the letter. And then he basically says, okay, now, Jon, Sam and Gilly, on your way, take Master Aemon, go to Old Town. And, well, we know how that ends. So, fast forward, they leave, and he also calls for two people to meet him after they leave. I forget the first guy's name, and I apologize. I'm very bad with learning, the millions and millions of names that he has introduced us to over the last couple books, but specifically in this one, since I'm still learning. I'll get there, but at any rate, he basically calls the two of them And the guy whose name I don't know shows up, and the other one is Jaina Slint, who we know all too well. And Janus doesn't show up. The other guy does. So he brings him and he says, okay, I want you to go take... that's going to bother me. He designates 2 points. He basically says, okay, we've got to start manning some of these points, and we don't have a whole lot, so I'm giving you command of one of these fortresses. It's in pretty bad shape. I'm giving you the command, and I'm giving you like 20 people, I believe 20 or 30 people, to go command this point. Do what you can, but just be very careful. You know, some of these people are Queensmen, some of these people are from King's Landing, so I believe his exact words were keep one eye on the people from King's Landing, keep the other on what's coming over the wall. And it's made very clear that 30 people really isn't enough to hold off this point if anything really happens. And it's kind of made worse by the fact that this person that he's designated in charge of this can't read or write. So he's given 2 ravens to send in an absolute emergency, and in the meantime he's told to just send writers and stuff. And he talks about building a series of beacons that they can light in the event that something happens. So he is at least thinking that far ahead. And so we're starting to see some of that stark inherent tactician in him as well that Robb displayed to a point as in his tenure as a king. So, no, at any rate, so guy takes it and says, well, it's not so great, whatever, you know, but it is what it is. I live to serve, etc. Takes his command and begins preparations, presumably. And so, fast forward a little bit, Jaina Slint comes in late, typical, and he's obviously still not happy about the fact that this kid is still in charge of the Night's Watch, which he got sent to, which he still, I have to assume he still doesn't believe that he deserves to be there. He was a lord. He was the Lord of Harrenhal. He was all this other stuff, and now he is servant to this child. So, at any rate, so he says, okay, well, I'm giving you command of this other fortress, which happened to also be the place where Jon came over the wall during his tenure with the Wildlings and with Mance Rayder. So, and Janus calls him out on it too. He's like, isn't that the place where you came over? He's like, well, it's not great. You're going to sleep on stones. Things are going to be kind of rough out there, but hey, look up. And he says, I don't know what you're doing. And what he's doing is getting him out of his hair. He says, you know, I don't want this guy in my camp. I don't want him next to Alistair Thorne, and I forget who I don't think it was Delora said, but somebody he was talking to was like, you know, just put him in the kitchen, and he was like, yeah, and then I have to worry, I'll never be able to eat another turnip. I would be poisoned, essentially, is what he was implying. So, but he says, nope, I'm giving you this command. Sorry, tough it out. And the guy's like, I'm not listening to you. I don't have to listen to you. I'm so important. I'm friends with Tywin Lannister. Obviously, word of his death has not reached up there quite yet. So, you know, blah blah blah. I don't have to. I'll do what I want. Whatever. So he says, well, you will show up, you know, at first light, and you'll do this. And he says, whatever, piss off, etc., and leaves. So Jon's kind of like, you know, I guess he's kind of hoping that he's just putting up a front, that he's just going to comply eventually, and he's not. He goes downstairs. And he goes to grab some breakfast, and sure enough, there he is with all his boys, you know, hanging out, and clearly not going anywhere. So Jon says, all right, here it is, last chance. You know, I've already packed your stuff for you. Go. He says, I'm not going anywhere. Jon says, you sure about that? And he says, nope, not going. I'm paraphrasing here, I apologize. And Jon says, okay. Grab him, you know. And take him to the wall, and then I kind of love the way that George R. R. Martin put this, where he kind of goes through the thought process. Well, I could have said, take him to the wall and put him in one of these cells and just let him rot, but that's going to cause all these consequences and problems and blah blah blah. I could say, put him on a horse and, you know, tie him and slap the horse and basically send him in the direction of it and hope that he gets there, but that's just going to cause more problems. And then he's kind of, you know, so he says, take him to the wall and hang him. And everybody's just kind of like, whoa, whoa. So they go and they grab him, and Alistair Thorne goes for a sword, and Jon's just sitting there going like, please do it. Give me a reason to use this. My sword is thirsty. and he doesn't. He submits. So, or rather, he backs off. So, they grab him, and he's throwing a fit the whole way. You don't know who I am. He's just a child. He's a bastard. He's cursed. Blah blah blah. All this bad stuff. And loud noises, etc. All the way to the gallows. So he gets there, and they wrap the noose around him, and then just as he's getting ready to end it all, Jon's kind of like, no, this is wrong. Pull him down, and Janus is just kind of like, see, he won't hang him. Blah blah blah. I'm too important. Gives him like this giant. I've been trying to keep it PG up until this point. Poop eating grin. And then almost immediately after he goes, give me a chopping block, and puts it down in front of him, throws his head down, and he's sitting there throwing a fit and yelling and screaming and causing all sorts of screaming some more, and then Jon's like, now listen, you can either stick your neck out and this can go easy, or you can, whine some more and you're still going to die, but it's going to be nasty. And so he does. He kind of sticks his neck out a little bit and goes, now, do you have any last words? And Jon was expecting him to curse him and throw some more, insults and so on and so forth, and he doesn't. He basically says, I'm sorry, mercy, 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 which I guess nobody was expecting, but Jon's like, I can't. You gave that up a long time ago, sir. Drops Longclaw down on him, and that's all she wrote. Although I do love the reaction as soon as his head drops, one of the guys in the yard is just kind of like, can I have his boots? What? They're nice. They've got fur. Forget the body going cold. The body's not even dead, and he's already asking for his stuff. But this is a cool chapter. Oh, and then he sees Stannis, and Stannis just kind of looking down at him from like a window or something, and just kind of gives him like the slightest of nods, like, all right, that's cool. So yeah, I like this chapter because now we see, like I was talking about, Jon the Lord, so to speak, Jon the Commander. So he's getting that. It's because we all miss Ned. And we get to see a little bit of Ned in him, He who passes judgment must swing the sword, and he does. And that's awesome. When he said take him to the gallows and hang him, I was a little disappointed, and then I got all giddy. I was in my car at the time when I heard this chapter, and I was, I'm sure people at the light thought I was a little insane, which is not wrong, but this wasn't proof in this particular case. At any rate, it was an excellent chapter. This is why I read these books, because every once in a while, every little once in a while, we get a little bit of justice. Because remember, this is the guy that sold out, and ultimately he's one of the reasons why Ned died, because Littlefinger managed to pay this guy off, and it's sad because Ned thought this guy was him and the City Watch were going to back him, and they didn't. They took side with Cersei, and specifically Littlefinger, who had paid him, and imprisoned Ned, killed all his guards, and obviously we know what happened to Ned. But now he's dead too, so that's cool. At least there's a little bit of justice, and he does. George R.R. Martin doles it out over like very long periods of time, but when it happens, it is good. When Tywin died, it was good. So, at any rate, that ends this chapter. I'll be back shortly with more. But until then, thank you once again for watching. Thank you for leaving comments. I really enjoy that people are actually starting to start discussion on some of this stuff. I'll be posting this on Reddit as well, as I have with the rest of these. So if you guys want to pop over there, it's reddit.com/r/Game of Thrones. And we'll have a discussion topic over there. Hopefully they haven't downvoted it already. But yeah, please participate. I love the discussions that are coming out of this. So in the meantime, thank you for watching. I'll be back shortly.